Welcome to the Pump Take Sports Show. Today, we are going to be covering 5 of the premier young players in the NBA. We're going to be talking about the guys who got a max contract over this offseason, including Jayson Tatum, Darren Fox, Bam Adebayo, Brandon Xavier Ingram, and Donovan Mitchell. So, I'll start off with Jayson Tatum. Not really too much to say about this. Tatum is clearly worth this money. This puts Tatum in the top 10 highest paid guys in the league when the extension kicks in 2022, which is a little bit interesting to note because Tatum, you have to ask yourself the question, in 2022, will Tatum be a top 10 player in the NBA? And I mean, it's trending in that direction based on how he's played so far in his career. I mean, how good can Tatum be, right? Mainly, he looks great. There are some times where he doesn't look so great, but most of the time he looks amazing. Versus Miami this year in the playoffs, he averaged 27 points, 10 boards, and 6 assists, which is excellent playoff numbers for a guy as young as Tatum is. So what does Tatum need to get better at? He could be a better ball handler. That's pretty much the only thing that I can really knock him against. And it's not even that big of a knock because his ball handling isn't that bad. But if Tatum developed a little bit more of some ball handling skills, he could be even more lethal on his mid-range shots, which he is always going to take, even though they're not his most efficient shots. It's just kind of like in his DNA as a basketball player is to just take mid-range shots. So I think with an improved ball handle, it could help him in that sense. He's improved in his shot selection. He's a great outside scorer. And one thing I like that he's done recently, which you guys would probably agree on, is that he's begun to draw more contact in games, like driving to the rim rather than like kind of relying on his outside scoring. It's leading him to more opportunities at the free throw line. And like the last thing is kind of in my notes about him is that just from the Celtics perspective, the Stevens offense is just continues to be potent and they will continue to run plays for Kemba and Tatum moving forward. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I've got about Jayson Tatum. Do you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, I really like the point that you made about how he's starting to get to the line a lot more. I think it really just shows, especially for a guy who has the physical gifts that Jayson Tatum has, and in addition to the natural scoring ability, that he's really starting to play into his body and into his strength a little bit more and realize that he can use his size and his speed and strength to get to the free throw line instead of just as you said before, taking those shots off the dribble where his handle might not always be as good as some other guys in similar scenarios. So I really like that Jayson Tatum is starting to do that. And I think it bodes well for how he trends and grows into this contract as a player.
Yeah, for sure. I love the signing from the Celtics. I think there's many ways that you can analyze and assess a player's skill and value to a team. But I think with a player like Tatum, all you need to do is just watch him play to tell how much potential this man has and how important he is to that franchise. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about Jayson Tatum. I love the signing and he has so much potential in the future. So why not? Why not?
Lucas, do you have anything to add?
He's just obviously, as we've mentioned, he's an elite player in the league and he's only going to get better based on his age. And I think the Celtics recognize that he's the guy that they need to build their organization around going forward, and they've paid him the money to do so. So good on them for that.
Yeah. And he destroyed our Raps. So as Marco said, you got to watch to see him play how good he is. And we were all watching and we saw how good he was. So we'll move on to the next player, which I believe is Darren Fox.
Yeah, so I'll talk about Fox for a little while. I've been liking Fox since he's been drafted. I love him as a player. He just seems like a great guy. Follow him on the gram. I don't follow a ton of NBA athletes. I probably follow like 10 actually or 20, but Darren Fox is one of them. I'm a big Fox fan, and I think the Sacramento Kings did great in their draft with drafting him. And he's proved to be a really great player. He just recently signed a 5-year, $163 million contract that can reach up to 195. So it's not guaranteed as much as like Tatum or Mitchell, but it can get up to that much. So still a huge contract. And I like the Kings for signing it just because, I think that the Kings are just that franchise that needs someone They need to sell jerseys. They need people in the stands. And Fox is a really exciting player, super fast, talented. So yeah, I like it from the Kings' perspective, and from Darren Fox's perspective. I mean, he's a young guy, and this is his first bag. So get the bag, and then I mean, in the next 5 years, if the Kings aren't the place, they're not attracting enough talent, he always has the opportunity to move somewhere else after. But yeah, so he averaged 21 points, 7 assists, and shot 48% from the field. So great offensive player, extremely fast. He's not bad on defense either. Shot only 29% from three, so could definitely work on that. But I think him with their new draft, Halliburton, will be, good for the future. Hopefully Marvin Bagley will start playing and playing well. And yeah, they have a young core. They also signed Hassan Whiteside for a year deal. I don't know if you guys knew that, but it's kind of weird and interesting. But yeah, so I mean, with the playoffs, I think maybe they'll make it this year. But yeah, just probably not. But I think the Fox signing in itself is a good signing for the Kings, and I like Fox as a player.
I agree that just because of the reasons that you listed before, that just Sacramento being a small market team, when you get a player like De'Aaron Fox, who's kind of like developing into a young star, you do have to sign him. That being said, I think for De'Aaron Fox to be actually worth that max contract on a winning team, he needs to develop his game quite a bit more, specifically on defense and his perimeter offense.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned in your main point that he shot 29% from three last season, and I think for like a guard in the modern NBA, that just needs to just be a lot better. Like we're in a league that to play in like a high-paced offensive system, you need your guards to generate a lot of offense from the perimeter, and to do that, they need to just be able to shoot threes. Like,
yeah, for sure.
It's a league where almost everyone on your team needs to be able to shoot from behind the arc, and if they can't, they start to become a liability because it's predictable. It's predictable what they're going to do. Then it's like, just coming from the perspective of a Raptors fan, it's the same thing that we sort of saw with DeMar like years ago.
Yeah,
DeMar was an awesome mid-range player, great slasher, but teams were able to protect what he was going to do because they knew that he was a little bit weaker shooting behind the arc. So I think that that's one aspect of De'Aaron Fox's game that if he's going to be worth this max contract, he's going to need to improve.
Yeah, I see it improving in the future. Like unlike Simmons, who's afraid to take 3-point shots, Fox does take 3-point shots, which is what's actually important. Like he will develop. He's young. I see his 3-point percentage improving for sure. But just at least having the confidence to be able to shoot those shots is like, it puts a little faith in the organization, in the Kings, that Fox will develop. But yeah, I see your point, Kale. I know what you're saying.
And the other thing too, I was going to kind of say the same thing Kale was going to say, just said about his outside offense. And the problem is, as a point guard, like as Kale said, in the modern NBA, you need to be scoring right from the outside and stuff like that. But if you're not doing that, then you better be a damn good facilitator. And De'Aaron Fox could use a little bit of work on his facilitation game, kind of just like moving the ball around. But I think that is a skill that can be learned as he has now 4 more years in the offense. They're putting Tyrese Halliburton beside him, who will help him. So I agree with what both of you are saying. I think it's a good signing because I think it was a necessity signing. Like you can't let De'Aaron Fox leave if you're signing.
No.
Right?
Oh yeah.
You just can't. So necessity signing in the sense that you need to sign this guy, but he's such a good player as well that it kind of works out for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything to add, Lucas, to Darren Fox?
Yeah, I was going to say he got his max on Sacramento, I think, because it's not a big market organization and they kind of need to hang on to those guys that are going to sell them jerseys and tickets and things like that a little bit more than other teams, right? I don't think he would have still gotten paid if he had been by a contending team, but I think to the Kings, they just value him so much more, which is why he got the money that he did.
Yeah, for sure. And I think with that, Lucas, I think you can take it away with the next player on our list of maxed players over the last little bit is Bam Adebayo.
Yes, sir. So the Miami Heat, one of the most integral parts of their NBA Finals run this season was Bam Adebayo. They signed him to a 5-year, $163 million contract. I think he's absolutely worth this money. I think he's underrated a little bit in the way he plays, and he can only get better from here on forward throughout his career. Last season, he averaged career highs in points, rebounds, and assists. He averaged 15.9 points and 10.2 rebounds per game in the regular season. And in the playoffs, he was even better. He averaged 17.8 points and 10.3 rebounds per game. And he played 36 minutes a game as well for the Miami Heat. So it's very obvious that he is one of the most important parts of their team. And a lot of their success this past season was as a result of Bam Adebayo's all-star level play. He did make his first all-star team, and he was also named to the NBA all-defense second team, which I think is where he gets most of his value from. His defensive game is elite in the league. And he's a versatile and athletic defender, which is something that is very coveted in the league, especially at the center position. He's a very, the way the NBA is kind of moving forward and away from like the traditional big man, he sort of embodies that modern day NBA big man who's sort of versatile and still has an athletic aspect to his game that allows him to contribute in other ways on the floor outside of the paint. There's also a couple clauses in his contract. So he could get a super max, which is 30% of Miami Heat's cap space if he wins the MVP at some point throughout his contract. If he makes a first team All NBA, then he gets 28.5% of Miami's cap. And if he wins a Defensive Player of the Year, which I think is actually a very large possibility, he would get 27.5% of Miami's cap, which would be a large contract, but I think he would be worth it, especially if he gets any of those accolades. I don't know. I'll open it up to you guys. What do you think?
Yeah, if I can add something quickly, I just think I didn't know that about the MVP clause. And I think that just kind of goes to show how much they do believe in him. Because if you're putting a clause in there that he wins an MVP and you get a supermax, I mean, that tells that the front office clearly thinks that is in the realm of possibilities. So it goes to show how much they believe in the guy. And so that's just kind of an exciting thing.
Definitely.
Yeah, I really like Bam Adebayo. Like, even, just watching him play, the man ball handles so well. He's an eyes up guy, a good passer, a good mid-range shooter, just like everything that you want in today's NBA from a 5. Being able to switch off and guard smaller players is huge as well, just because he's so quick and agile. So I love the signing from the Heat. And if the Heat didn't have Bam, there's no way that they would have, pushed so far in the playoffs to the finals. So yeah, an essential piece of that organization. So a great signing for.
Outside of Jimmy Butler, you'd have to say he was their MVP.
Yeah.
And during this playoff run, hands down.
For sure.
And they've got a little bit of money with Tyler Hero being really young that they can kind of use on Bam for the time being. And so another trait, Marco, that I wanted to add when you were listing Bam's good traits was hardworking. Because you see Bam on the court after playing 36 minutes, and the man is just drenched in sweat, absolutely gassed, but he's always working hard on both ends of the floor, which is a really important piece of obviously being an NBA player. So I agree. I just wanted to add that in because that's one trait about Bam that I've always kind of admired about him is his hard work on the boards and offensive.
Bro, he just fits in so well with the Heat because the Heat as a team are just dogs, like they always have been. As a Raptors fan, I know we all know, personally, I hated the Heat years ago because they were dogs, but they were also rough and violent. Mm-hmm. That's just, a biased Raptors fan talking. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think he fits so well with that organization. They're all about hard work, and Jimmy Butler embodies the Heat so well, I think. So, I dig it for sure.
Jill, do you have anything to add to the Bam thing?
I think you guys hit the nail on the head just in terms of just all of the benefits of signing Bam. He's an improving offensive player. He's a fantastic defender that can defend most positions. And just one thing that I've been seeing sort of with this contract signing as well is that certain Heat fans who are frankly kind of unrealistic and dumb have been criticizing it because they're giving Bam this big of a deal, people have been saying is like, oh, it affects the Giannis chase or whatever. It's like organizations don't care about things like that. And I think like signing Bam to this contract and just locking up just a future cornerstone of your organization, it's like you can't go wrong.
It doesn't really affect the Giannis chase that much because they still have the cap to do that if that were to even be in the realm of possibility, which I don't think it's going to happen. But then also having a guy like this locked up is an attractive piece for Giannis.
Yeah,
so I don't
exactly. I don't think it's smart for an organization to hedge all their bets and not re-sign someone as good as Bam just for the possibility, the slight possibility of getting Giannis. It's like they just went to the finals. Like, re-sign him.
And it doesn't matter anyway because he's coming to Toronto. So like Miami doesn't play him anyway. So Kale,
better to have Bam. Better to have Bam on the Heat to guard Giannis when they meet the Raptors in the conference finals than it is.
Exactly.
All right, so I'll just get right into Brandon Ingram then. This is the day all Pelicans fans you've been waiting for. Brandon Ingram has agreed to a 5-year, $158 million max contract extension with the Pelicans. And like, I think this is just a fantastic signing. He's becoming one of the NBA's most elite scoring wings, and I think he's going to eventually be a bona fide superstar. And now he's going to stay with the Pelicans until he's 28 years old. So that's an excellent thing. Ingram next year will be making a base salary of $27 million, which by 2024, 2025 could go up to a possible salary of $36 million, which, while it's a lot, I think this is a no-brainer signing for the Pelicans. You lock up a guy who's going to be your who's going to just be your super max superstar to pair with Zion. He's a fantastic scorer, and I think it was a great signing.
Yeah, and if I can add something as well, like if you look at the market of what players are getting paid right now, you have to max Ingram. Like you don't have, not only is he worth it, but like of all these guys we're talking about, and the guy that I'm going to talk about after, these are all maxable players. In like what players are getting paid currently, you have to max all these guys is the one thing I want to say. And the other thing is that Ingram is now living up to what his draft kind of comparisons and expectations were. This is what Ingram was drafted to do. It took him a few years to get there, but of course it's going to. When you have like you're on the Lakers and then the whole LeBron thing happens, then you get moved cities. That's a big transition. So he's finally kind of flourished into what draft kind of scouts thought he was going to be when he was drafted. And Marco, I'm sure you remember Kevin Durant. Brandon used to be my favorite player.
Yeah, I literally was just going to bring this up.
Yeah, he used to be my favorite player because when he was drafted, he was getting Kevin Durant like this could be the next KD in however many years. Maybe there is no next KD. But Brandon Ingram was being talked about like he was that guy. And I'm not saying that he's close to that. Yeah. But what Brandon Ingram has been able to put together, he's well deserved his max contract. And when you actually watch Brandon Ingram play, he is a little KD-esque.
You see a lot of Durant's game. No, you do. You do.
He is.
And I know why I know we joke about this in our friend group, but I see a lot of Jake and Brandon Ingram too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, boys. Like Brandon Ingram is a great signing. And I think for like what you guys were saying, just the amount that they're actually signing him for, it might seem crazy, but it's not. We're talking about all of these contracts. They're all very similar. And Brandon Ingram is absolutely 100% deserves to be up there with the rest of these guys that we're talking about. And I think that the Durant comparisons are valid because we're not saying he's as good as Durant, obviously. We're just saying his game style is similar. Like he's a tall, lanky guy. He can shoot fadeaways. He can shoot 3-point shots. He can get to the rim easily. He's athletic. He's extremely quick and kind of shifty and elusive for his size. So yeah, I think the comparisons are valid. Yeah. And like Kale, what you were saying, like getting a guy like that matched up with Zion, then having a facilitator like Lonzo and just the young core that they're building, like the Pelicans are building, is just amazing. I love it. Go ahead, Kale.
Yeah, and just another thing, like the reason you pay Brandon Ingram this much money is because the Pelicans don't actually have very much money locked up. Past 2022, the only players that are on contract past that season right now are Zion on his rookie deal, Brandon Ingram, Jackson Hayes on a rookie deal, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker also on a rookie deal. So you have a lot of young players who you still have under contract for another 4 years. And you can also re-sign guys like Josh Hart, Nicola Melli, Lonzo Ball, JJ Redick will probably take a vet min on his next contract. Etuan Moore, Derek Favors, guys like that. The Pelicans in the next few years are going to still have a lot of money next to Ingram and Zion, just because that all of their young players that are going to develop and become good are all still on their rookie deals. So just what they're building in New Orleans, they could become an attractive destination to free agents as well.
Yeah, and the other thing, Kale, it's all the guys that you just said, the Mellies, the Redicks. Those are going to be the guys that the Pelicans move forward with surrounding Ingram and Zion. Like Lonzo obviously will get paid. He's not going to get paid a max or anything like that. But it's those guys, the Mellies, the Redicks, the Etuan Moores, the Jackson Hayes is not going to take a lot of money. And so it's these kind of role players around these two main options on your team. That's what the Pelicans are going to be using moving forward. And I think they're going to build a pretty cool culture there with Ingram and Zion and kind of the youthful, like fun thing. Like these guys are going to be in New Orleans for a while. And they walked out of, this is kind of a separate thing, but they walked out of that AD trade laughing.
Oh yeah.
Like credit
so
to the New Orleans front office that we don't, they don't really, I mean, I'm sure they do get credit, but they deserve all the credit for how they walked away from losing a superstar like AD. And look, they got draft picks in the Drew Holiday trade too. Like they are nothing but positive moving forward. And so signing Brandon Ingram to this, you got to do it and you should do it. And I'm happy they did it. It's a great signing.
Yeah, for real.
Lucas, do you have anything to add to Ingram, or should we move on to
just a quick point to your like AD trade comparison thing. Like when they had 82, they weren't actually moving in the right direction at all. They had this superstar, sure, but they were having difficulty actually building a team that was successful around him. And what they did is they acquired all of these assets that actually created a deep team that's going to be capable of actually doing something. And from the point from one of our previous videos when we talked about the Thunder is if you're not winning, you're losing, right? So this was, I like what the Pelicans did, and now they're locking up the assets they got from that trade. So
absolutely. And with that, we can talk about Donovan Spider Mitchell. So Donovan Mitchell, with incentives, he can reach $195 million. And what I've been seeing Jazz fans kind of talk about and saying is that they think he will reach the incentives that were laid out by the Jazz, because ever since he was drafted, the guy's just been a hard worker. He's always wanted to be the best he can be for the Jazz. He's pretty much become the cornerstone of their franchise now with this money, and he is their face of the franchise for the foreseeable future. This contract was totally coming, and as I have here in my notes, which we had just talked about with the Ingram thing, this is the NBA market now. And so Donovan is just worth a max, regardless of any of his, like anything I'm about to say. What he's just shown so far, he's worth a max automatically, because that's just kind of what the market is. But I got here, Utah drafts their stars. Ever since he was drafted, he's been pulling eyes to the city, specifically with the whole Ben Simmons Rookie of the Year debate. And the Jazz benefit from having eyes on their team. From a business perspective, from an NBA front office perspective, Mitchell is very marketable with his whole like Spider brand, the like shoes that he's eventually going to have, all that stuff. He has the personality to want to continue to get better. And I think in these playoffs, aside from all the off the court things that I just mentioned, he proved it on the court. So with a decent amount of scoring in the playoffs this year, Mitchell averaged 24 points per game with just above 4 rebounds per game and 4 assists per game on an efficient field goal percentage of 51.3%, as well as having 2 50-plus point games in that stretch in like the Denver series when him and Jamal were kind of going at it. It was that series, I think, that really locked up Mitchell's bag for sure. He's explosive, hardworking defender. As I said, he's a young leader. And the Jazz should be more than thrilled about having this guy on their team for the next 4 years.
Mm-hmm. And as you were just saying about the market before, like not all max players that are getting maxes, especially this offseason, are the same. Like even a guy that we talked about earlier in this video, like Darren Fox, for example. Like Donovan Mitchell at similar stages in their career, Donovan Mitchell is leading a playoff organization, while other guys getting maxes are a bottom seed in the West. And I think that leadership really is an intangible that kind of like it doesn't show up statistically, but it really means something. And when you sign a guy to a max, that's something that you're looking for, is that type of leadership on and off the court.
Yeah, they're expected now. Like what you were saying, Kale, now that Donovan Mitchell, as well as these other guys, have signed this max, they're kind of given the keys to the franchise, as Jack Bradshaw would say with Miles Turner. But they're given the keys to the franchise. Is this the last player that we're talking about, or do we have one more?
This is the last player.
So, if you guys don't mind, I'm curious to hear your opinions about if you just had a team to build a player around, which one of these guys would you pick? Because these guys are very similar contracts.
I like that.
All young, and I just think it's an interesting topic. And forget about positions. We're just saying if you had a team to build around, just you pick a player. I'm going to mute myself. And then
Jayson Tatum.
I'm going to say Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum.
What about you, Lucas? Thinking about it.
I want to say Bam, but
I like that.
I don't know.
Like
can I just give my case for Tatum?
Yeah,
go around and give the cases, and then at the end, I'll say mine.
Me and Jake are very, very high on Jayson Tatum, as I'm sure you guys probably know. Like, Tatum has all the aspects that we've talked about through this video. He's a fantastic scorer, great defender. He has the prototypical body type that you want in an NBA wing. And the guy's like in his first 3 seasons has led multiple deep playoff runs. Like he almost he has the skill and the promise of a young player, but he still leads a team like he's a veteran all-star. And I think that that type of experience that Jayson Tatum's already on a Celtics team pre-Kemba Walker with rookie Jaylen Brown, hurt Kyrie Irving, led a Celtics team to the conference finals in the Eastern Conference. And he's only showing that he just continues to just improve his game and become a better player. And that trajectory is it's showing no signs of stopping. So if I was starting a franchise around any of these players, Jayson Tatum would be my clear pick.
Yeah, and one thing as well, just compared to a guy like Bam, where Bam is a great player beside Jimmy, and how Jimmy kind of leads the Heat, right? Like as Marco was saying earlier, Jimmy is the Heat. He's the culture of the Heat, and Bam's a great guy to put beside him. Tatum is the culture of the Celtics already. Tatum is to the Celtics what Jimmy is to the Heat, in the sense that he's and look at the guys also that he's playing beside. He's playing beside Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, all these really great players, and he's by far and none already the leader of that team. And so, yeah, Jayson Tatum. To everything Kale said, he's Jayson Tatum for sure.
And another thing you have to consider with this question as well is that you're not taking these players as they exist on the current iterations of their teams. Where Bam is without a doubt an excellent fit in the Miami Heat culture and system. You're taking these players to start a franchise in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. And I think just on a team of just for example, I don't know, just
whoever's
of whoever's on if you take a team of I can't even think of an example, but just a team of random role players, and you put in Jayson Tatum versus Bam Adebayo, Jayson Tatum's clearly going to lead that team to a better record and playoff.
I will say this though, before Marky, you say your player, Lucas, Bam wouldn't be my last pick though. Out of these guys, Bam wouldn't be my last pick. So Bam is definitely still an excellent player. It's just when you're talking about everything Kale said, but Bam wouldn't be my last pick. I will say that Bam wouldn't be my last pick.
So I don't want to just hop on and say the same thing as everyone else, but I will, because it's my opinion. So regardless of your guys' opinion, I would say the same thing. But I think I picked Jayson Tatum too, and I think it's so crazy to me that a player so young has developed so quickly to becoming a leader. Like, this man had Kyrie on his team, and just getting Kyrie off his team, you were able to see the potential that this guy had. And I think if Kyrie wasn't on his team, the pick would even be more clear, because you would be able to see Jayson Tatum be so good like he was last season for another whole season. Like, if Kyrie wasn't there, like I mean, we've already talked about Tatum, but yeah, I love him. And it's crazy to me that even after acquiring like a more veteran player like Kemba, I think everyone would maybe not everyone, but I think most people would still say, yeah, I think Tatum is the premier player on the Celtics, even over Kemba. So yeah.
And here's a fun little thing. We've only got a few more minutes before we got to wrap this up. We'll end it off with this. Other than Tatum, you get one name. You just say the name. What player are you taking other than Tatum? We'll start with Marco.
Mitchell.
Kale?
Brandon Ingram.
Lukey?
Is this assuming that we have Tatum on our team?
No. Other than Tatum, just the players that we talked about today. You can't pick Tatum. Who are you going to pick?
Bam. I'm sticking with Bam.
And I'm going to take Brandon Xavier Ingram. Thank you very much for tuning in today, everyone. This was a fun episode. This was a good one. We talked about some of the best players in the NBA, and hope you liked it. So check out our NFL stuff, our other NBA stuff. As I said in the football video this morning at the very end, we've gotten a little bit of like an OKC following because our OKC video is doing very well. So maybe go watch that. And yeah, thanks for watching, and you rock for listening. Have a good one.
See you guys.